problem.
Morning, Steve.
Morning.
You're 2 in a row now. How important is that word momentum?
Well, it's a better week, but that's all it is. We can't get too carried away with it because, let's be fair, Wigan have made 11 changes the other night, and I know we did as well, but, you know, it was nice to win the cup tie, of course it was, and it was good to see a response against Norwich in particular. Always when you have a difficult week, then it's nice to get a result, and of course, as we know, there's nothing like by quiet in a storm when you get a result, and that's the way football is these days. So it was good to get a result, and it was the manner of it. We played very, very well. Now we have to address it away from home. We have to address this horrible thing that's hung over us for years, that we have to start performing on the road and live up to the expectation what this club obviously demands. We go to places, and of course it's a full house usually it's on Sky, and we have to make sure we get better.
Do you see a difference in the players after a win? Did they try things on the training ground that they usually wouldn't do?
Well, they're more upbeat. Of course, there's nothing quite like a win in football, and of course when you have difficult weeks, then the one thing that can put the right is the players. So the response to them has been good. They've had a good week. That's all it is. You know, we've had a decent week. You know, it just shows you how football in 2 weeks, 3 weeks can go from a crisis to euphoria all of a sudden. So let's not get ourselves too carried away. We've got a good week. Let's see if we can go and get now something at Bristol.
You've spoken at length about some of the young lines in the squad, but not about Mitch Clark. Can we get your thoughts on him as a player and how you thought he did?
Well, I don't mean this disrespectfully, but he's a little bit of a throwback, and he's tough and he's quick and he can play in any sort of position, and he's one of them where you just ask him to do something, he does it, you know, and he's got that fierce determination about him, and that little bit of devilment he's got in him, which is always good for a defender. I thought he had a very, very, very good debut, considering I've asked to play him out of position, which I was wary of, but I was assured by Kev that he'd handle it. Kev MacDonald was adamant that he would handle it, and how right he was. He was terrific playing out of position.
How much of a help has Kevin MacDonald been?
Well, I've said it many, many times over the years. If you take a young player from Aston Villa, they're usually made of good stuff because of the education that they've had. You know, I don't mean this disrespectfully, but he's another one where he's supposed to be old-fashioned. There's nothing wrong with it. He breeds them tough in a tough world, in a tough environment of a football, and for me, he's been magnificent for the club and what he's done over the years. So yes, he has many people who doubt him, but in what I've seen, the way the players have come through physically and the way they are mentally, they've been able to handle what we've thrown in front of them, which is good.
Ian Davis has obviously attracted a lot of media attention. How much of it is a balancing act between wanting him to feel 10 feet tall, but then also keeping him quite grounded?
Well, I'm convinced that he's going to go up and down a little bit. He's only a boy of 19. So he set a remarkably high standard. And now he's got to obviously stay there with it. So, of course, he's walking on air at the minute. He's absolutely... But he's a grounded kid. The disappointing thing for me, really, he's got a little niggling hamstring, which is hung over him all week, really. But he was terrific. And the big thing now is... And I think because of his upbringing, his non-league background and rejection, I think he's determined to make a fist of what's ahead of him. And certainly, as a young player, I don't think I've witnessed a better debut. I've seen better debuts, of course, from international players and all review, but I've never seen a young player have such an impact so quickly and help turn around the negativity, what was maybe in the stadium, to a positive, which was good. Onoma's going to be okay. Jedinak's sick today. Miles reported in sick, so we'll see how he is. I doubt Friday's going to be right for him. As in Keenan, he trained yesterday, but was still a little bit sore. We'll see how he is again this morning. But I expect him to make Friday.
You've been very heavily this week with Robert Snodgrass from West Ham. Is there anything?
Well, it's somebody I know, somebody I've bought before. We are aware that he might be available, so it's something that is interesting us. We have had conversations, but in all of these things now, it's not just a done deal just yet. There's still little bits and pieces to do. We're hopeful. We're hopeful that we can try and get something done.
As you mentioned earlier about the away form, you've got Bristol City coming up on Friday. How eager are you to sort of...
Well, it'd be nice. Yeah. Well, look. You know, we've got to address it. You know, it's hung over the club for far too long now, years, not just months, years. So we have to address it if we're going to be successful in what we want to do. We're home form has stacked up since I've been here. So we've got to try and find a mentality and a way of winning away from home or getting a result away from home if we're going to improve. Well, I mean, look, all we can ask for is it's home. You know, again, it's another fixture. We've got a home tie with it. It's an ideal opportunity to still use the young ones and the people who haven't been playing. So we'll address that when we get to it. We've got a home draw. We can't ask more than that.
Two general football questions to end. Football chiefs have been discussing this week the possibility of closing the transfer window before the season starts.
Yeah. Yes.
Being favourable?
Well, I think it's for me, clubs like ours in the Championship, there shouldn't be a transfer window. I think we should lobby against it because, for instance, we have young players who I wouldn't mind letting out for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I'm a bit reluctant to let them out for 4 or 5 months. So, in that respect, I honestly believe that for the Football League, we shouldn't have a window. But if there is a window, then it should be shut before the season starts, and then we wouldn't have the disruption and the nonsense that we're going to have this week. Because let's be fair, we've had weeks and weeks and weeks to do our business, but as usual, we wait until the last flurry. So I think that would make sense.
Very finally, Wayne Rooney international duty. Will he make it into your all-time England 11?
Yes, he has to. He has to, without question. You know, I don't even know why there's even questions about him. Maybe because England haven't won in a tournament. But the greats before him, let's be fair, we haven't been successful since '66. So the greats before him haven't been able to do it. But certainly, if you're picking a great England team, then Wayne Rooney, 119 caps, 53 goals. What he's done for Man U, it staggers me that he has critics. But certainly, if I was picking an England 11, then Wayne Rooney would have to be in it. You're quite right. That I watched him the other day, and he was like a young boy again. I have to say, I watched him live at Man City, and physically he looks in terrific shape, as good as I've seen him for a long, long time, and probably because he's had a good pre-season and he's playing. But I'm not surprised, because there comes a time when he probably looks at it and thinks, "Am I going to start? If I'm not going to start, then do I really want to be tramping all around Europe and the rest of the world when I can have a break, i.e. can have a break this weekend?" And I think it's important. That's important for his longevity in his career. And there's always a great saying, when's the right time to leave a party? I have to say he's been one of the greats. And watched him, it seems like yesterday, since scoring against Arsenal, making his England debut when he's 17, to have that longevity and what he's done, then we should be taking our hats off to him, because he's been one of the great players of the last generation.
Do you think it's sad almost that we do appreciate these players more once they come up to these?
Well, once he's been finished, probably 10 years, then we'll appreciate him, and you look back and think, wow, what record that is. 119 England appearances, 53 goals, the all-time goal scorer of our country, passing all the greats, passing the likes of the greats of Bobby Charlton. I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful achievement. And as I said repeatedly, he's been a great, great player. You know, why he has these critics and the people who knock him is beyond me, because he's been one of the best, as I said, he's been one of the best players of the last generation, easily.
While we're away from Villa, if I could take you away from football, just quickly, big fight this weekend.
Fighting now, I'm going to comment on the fight. I think I'm intrigued like everybody else is. You know, can the Irishman have a dig at him? Can he get a punch in? I think we're all, you know, let's not forget now, Mayweather hasn't fought for 2 years, but he was unbeatable for a decade, so it should be intriguing, absolutely. It should be box office stuff. Whether I'll pay the 20 quid and sit up till 5:30 in the morning, I'm not too quite so sure, though. Sorry about that, Sky. It's the 5:30, not the 20 quid.
McGregor thinks he can knock Mayweather out. Do you like his confidence?
Well, you have to admire his confidence, and I have to say he is box office. You know, every time you see him on there, and my son has followed him for years, and I'm aware of what he's been capable of, and you see some of the stuff he gets up to. It's an unbelievable rise to the top, considering where he was 3-4 years ago. So I think all of us would hope that he could have a dig at him and knock him out. Whether he will or not, we'll have to wait and see.
What do you think of this sort of mixing sports? Is there a similar sport to football?
Well, it's a spectacle, isn't it? You know, it's a spectacle, and I never thought I'd be going to a day-night test match. I never thought I'd be seeing cricket played under floodlights, but, you know, we live in a changing world, and it's grasped everybody's attention all around the world, so it should be some spectacle.
So rugby against football next, maybe?
There's only one winner there. Football winning that hands down. I ain't so sure about that either.
Right, on to Villa then. Sat here last week asking about the job. It's amazing the difference 6 days ago.
Well, I didn't think it was rewrite. I'd be answering those sort of questions, but it just shows you how quickly things change. And if I think we're out the woods yet, we're not. We've had a good week. That's all we've had. But I suppose that's the football manager of life today. So the good thing for me was there was a response from the team, certainly with the performance against Norwich, and we've taken that into midweek, into the cup tie. But always we're Achilles' heel. What gets us in the mess is we're away form. And that has been pretty dismal now for years. Not just weeks, months, it's been years, if we analyse it. So it's something that we've got to address, and I have to address, which basically must be a mentality of some sort. So last year, we're form stacked up at home. Away from home, it doesn't. So we have to address it, hopefully starting at Barnsley, and have to find some way of getting a few points away from home, which we have to achieve if we're going to be successful.
Another issue you talked about last week was scoring the goals, putting the chances away. Conor Hurahan certainly did that against Norwich. What a performance like that do you think?
Well, certainly, he scores at Reading. He scores at Reading, and all of a sudden you could just see him, even though he got beat, him personally, the goal gave him that little bit of confidence, and that's what footballers need. They need, and especially the lads who arrived in January last year, big expectations on them, big demands on them, and found it difficult to have the impact they had at their previous clubs. Certainly Connor, when we bought him, was the top goal scorer and the top assists in the Championship for his respective club. But it's a big wake-up call and big demands on you when you come and arrive at a place like this. However, we've seen bits of it and flashes of it, and last week he's done the whole thing, which is great for him. That's what we bought him for, his ability to score a goal and make a goal. And certainly it'll done him the world of good in terms of confidence-wise, and stand him in good stead.
An impressive performance too from King Davis. How pleasing is it for you to see young players like that coming through?
Well, we're pretty lucky, or not lucky, fortunate that we've got a sprinkling of some very, very good young players, especially Keenan. Hepburn Murphy I've not really seen a lot of since I arrived at the club in 7-8 months, unfortunately due to injury. But you look at O'Hare, Mitch Clark, Hayes, Jake Hayes, he says Solomon, well, there's a lot we have, and that can only be good for the club going forward, because for years Kev MacDonald's done a sterling job with the reserves or under 23s or wherever we're going to put it, and that's the way forward. You know, we haven't had millions and millions to spend this summer because of what's gone on in the past and the financial fair play restrictions. So it's important that we've had the young kids to give us that competition that everybody needs.
With that inevitably comes the interest from Premier League clubs.
He's only played once. He's only played once, and there's only a week to go. Look, if there's Premier League interest in all of them, then they're doing their jobs, because the Premier League is always looking for young players, and we're all looking for young players. But certainly, we're not in any position to be looking to sell any of them. But it's inevitable there's going to be interest. But I wouldn't have thought there'd be anything done before Thursday anyway.
Andre Green, does that apply to him?
It applies to all of them. I mean, Andre's another one. He's another young player. You know, the two of them are 19-year-old. So, of course, there's going to be interest in them. But, you know, we want them to play for us first and let them do their apprenticeship with us, and let's see where that takes them.
I hope we're bringing Robert Snodgrass in. What will he add to your side? What are his qualities?
Well, I've had the pleasure to work with him very briefly, I have to say, at Hull. You know, all the stuff that you talk about quality and experience, he's got in abundance. He's been there, done it, and wore the T-shirt. Hasn't quite worked out for whatever reason at West Ham. We're trying our best to get it over the line. It's not quite happened yet, but he'll add that little bit of sparkle, if you like. He can play in any position up the front, off the front, left or the right. And he's a very, very good player. So let's hope we can do something.
Any other signings in the pipeline?
No, I wouldn't have thought so.
And in terms of Bristol City, obviously you've had a good week. They had the midweek win over Watford as well, so they'll be buoyed.
Yeah. I mean, they've had a good start, and it's always difficult to play against Bristol. We found it very difficult last year. I wasn't at the club, but found it very, very difficult down there. It's never an easy place to play, and it won't be. They've had a good start, but we've had a good week. Let's hope we can continue it by getting a result down there. Thank you.